and welcome to the Reign of Blood podcast, brought to you by the Reign of Blood Festival team. So this is the podcast where you get a behind-the-scenes look at the con and the sharps and blood kinksters all over the world who will be celebrating with us. So this podcast is intended for mature audiences who have an interest in blood and sharps-based kinks only. So if that's not you, then this podcast definitely is not for you. So these are real stories from real kinksters, and so they may contain discussions surrounding things like health, mental health, kink, blood, self-harm, traumatic experiences, and more. So if you're having a rough day or these topics could be distressing for you, then we would advise you to come back when you're more ready to enjoy the topic with us.
Hey, my amazing sharps lovers. I'm back. And I have a Reign of Blood bonus episode, and I'm talking to Jo a little bit about Reign of Blood, a little bit about sharp things, and a little bit about her experience in this crazy world and her journey. Jo, I'm really excited that we could connect tonight, and I love talking about sharp things. So thank you for being with me tonight, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jo, your message that you sent me really piqued my interest because you spoke a little bit about your journey and your experience with sharps not being so textbook and starting off with a bit of fear of sharps. So I thought maybe we could talk a little bit about how that looked for you and how you got into it if you had an honest fear of sharps to begin with.
I'm also really happy that I'm able to share that here on the podcast because I want to encourage people to explore in kink and really never say never, because my experience was an absolute, I will never do this years ago, right? Like when I first heard of people sticking needles under their skin, I was like, yeah, they're idiots. Why would you do that? Like I had horrible experiences whenever I was going for a blood draw. I would my phobia was so strong that I would like scratch my whatever you call it, elbow pits where you draw blood.
Yeah.
And then I was completely useless when it came finally to the blood draw because everything was scratched open and everything was swollen, and my veins in general are very small. So that did not help with the whole phobia because it made that also complicated, and they needed multiple attempts. It was very, lots of tears, lots of squirming, lots of anxiety. So I went from that experience right into, well, people do this for fun and for kink. And I was like, no, why?
I just listening to you, I just want to hug you. Just listening to your to the fear of needles, and I think the fact that you have even broached the subject takes huge bravery. So I just want to commend you for that. And I think that if it's I think anything that's in a bad experience, to be able to face it is huge. Like that really takes courage. So I'm really glad that you were brave enough to come on and chat to us tonight about this, because I think there's millions of people out there that have the same experience that you have experienced, and don't have the bravery. So hopefully you can give somebody a little bit of a push and say it's not so bad. But yeah, that sounds terrible. It really doesn't sound good.
But like you say it's my bravery, but really it's because of people in my life, like everything in life, right? Like if you walk it alone, it won't work. And like from the experience of a nurse, like there was one event where they had to check my inflammation levels, or like my, what is it, T count, like if I have an infection, right? And I needed to draw blood, or give blood kind of 8 times within 2 weeks or something like this. And that was horrible, obviously. But the nurse that I did this with, she really helped me like get the control back, because she saw how much I was struggling, and she stopped and then said, no, we're going to do this at your pace. And whenever you're ready, I'm going to put the needle in. And, now we're not talking a kink thing, right? We're just talking a medical professional relationship. But that already helped a lot to overcome the first part of like the phobia. Overcome, it sounds like I don't have it anymore, but like at least now I don't scratch anymore. I only squirm. And what maybe I can also now talk about a bit like how I actually changed my mind from this is a hard no, absolutely not going to do this, into how the kink developed, or the interest in the kink developed.
Yes, please.
It was a Halloween house party. And there were 2 really amazing people who do quite a lot of sharps in the Dutch scene. And they were kind of coming to the party and for fun showing it as a demo. It was a very small party. And they were also allowing people to kind of, if you want to get stabbed, that's also fine if you want to experience it. And before they even started their scene like by themselves, I thought, do I want to be in the room? Probably not. And then I thought, I'm just going to challenge my fear and just be in the room, and I can still leave if it's bad. And then I saw them interacting with each other, and they were so warm and beautiful and sexy with each other, and there was so much connection. And then I understood how much intimacy and beauty can be in that connection, even if it's something that's so freaking scary, or maybe because it is something that's so very scary. And they were also talking about like their experience, right? Like what they think about experiencing this and feeling this. And they were talking a lot about using their meat suit. And back then I thought like, oh, what kind of terminology is that? Like that kind of felt very edgy to me or something. But yeah, that whole concept of owning your own body and seeing it as a as a tool, or like that was really cool as well.
I love that. For me, it's a canvas, and I'm so proud of what my canvas can do and what the beautiful things that it can create. So I love hearing how other people see it, and I love that you thought it was edgy. I think that's so super. I think that really made me smile. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. Carry on.
No, I was actually curious about hearing like what you think about the term, and hearing that you call it canvas is also really interesting, because that also has a really artistic side to it, right?
Yeah, cool. And I had no, like, for me, being able to make art out of skin, especially even my own skin, was so empowering. And it was for me, it was a complete journey of then taking care of that canvas and making sure the canvas was okay. And from a mental health side, that made me better at my own self-care. So it's really empowered my journey from that side. So yeah, I have to say, when I started the podcasts, joke with my players at home, and I call them blood bags and meat sacks and stuff like that. And when I started on the podcast, like I was a bit nervous to say that out publicly. So when you said like, so they were calling it their meat sack, I was like, I had this like a smile that was hurting my cheeks because I was like, yeah, we all do that. And then you were like, it sounds edgy. I was so glad you said that because it felt edgy to say it.
Yeah, but yeah, hell yeah, normalize it, right?
Yeah, love that.
And but yeah, so they were also talking a bit about blood because they were like also very, very huge blood players, and especially one of them, she was talking about it all started when her partner was poking a volunteer, someone who just wanted to try it for the first time. And when the needle got removed, the bottom who tried it for the first time, she said like, oh, it's dripping. What do I do? What do I do? And she was kind of like, oh no, blood, what do I do? And the other person, not the top, but her partner, she stayed super calm and was like, you can do with it whatever you want. You can lick it. You can let it run. You can play with it. You can draw with it. You can clean it up and put a Band-Aid on it. You can do whatever you want. And I just thought that mindset that is what got me into it. Like really the open-mindedness of you own this and you can do whatever you want with it.
I love that. And it's so interesting to hear everybody's journey with blood. When the first time a player said to me in the dungeon, when the needles come out, are we going to play with blood? I was like, hell no, we're not. No, God, we can't do that. It's like, no, we can't do that. And then I had to really think about it instead of being like trying to control the situation, which I think is my normal go-to for everything. And it was like, yeah, you can actually we can play with the blood. And then we played with the blood and it was just downhill from there. Like it just opened a whole new kink. But if you'd asked me 3 years ago if I was going to play with blood, my answer would have been hell no, definitely not. And now it's like, if I didn't have to do the needles and could just play with the blood, I would do that too. So yeah. It's interesting how your mind opens up, and there's just something about blood. There's something about the way it feels and the way it flows and the viscosity of the liquid, and it's so primal and it's so intimate. Like I don't think there's another experience that kind of shares the same, for me anyway. And
I love hearing you talk about it. That's amazing. And yeah, I agree. It's bizarre how our experiences can be like, nope, never going to do that. And then all of a sudden you get this thing that opens another box and you're like, shit, here we go. And here's another kink.
Kink unlocked.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me when I first joined kink, and I had like, I think when you first join, they give you like, they want you to pick a title. So you do, because you have no idea what you are, but you pick a title, and then they're like, give me a list of hard limits. So you pick this list of like ridiculous hard limits. I think blood was definitely on my list at that time. And the person that I was speaking to just laughed at me and said, it's 6 months between a hard limit and a kink. And I said, well, yeah, I don't believe you. These will never be my kinks. And meanwhile, definitely that hard limit list has changed over the years, and I've definitely evolved. And the original title that I came in with and who I am now in kink is definitely yards apart of what I imagined it to be and what the journey's really been for me. I loved hearing you talk about these people that were able to show you a positive side and be able to approach kink with an open mind. It's such a good reminder for me that that we can make a difference in a scene for the people that are watching us. Like that really hit home and resonated with me.
Yeah, and I'm really, really thankful for them. Like it's the weirdest thing is like we don't interact that much. Like we are in the same bigger community, kind of, like as in we're all in the Netherlands, but I don't get to see them often, and I also don't know if I've ever seen them since. And so if you people out there hear yourself and recognize yourself in this story, maybe I even drop them a message. I should actually.
Do it. I say do it. And I have to tell you, I have the hugest crush on the entire sharps community from the Netherlands. They just they're my bucket list. Like every time somebody says, well, do you want to go to the States? I'm like, I want to go to the States, but via the Netherlands. And then I want to come home back again via the Netherlands. Like it's like my absolute bucket list place. I dealt with a few people from the Netherlands for Rain of Blood, and every single one of them, they just had such a different approach and thought outside the box and were just so welcoming. And they were the first, the group from the Netherlands were the first people to sign up for Rain of Blood. And they gave me so much support I was so far away from them, and they didn't know me from a bar of soap. Here's this crazy chick from Africa who's now decided she's going to do this thing. And they just backed me and supported me. And they really, in the first 3 weeks of putting Rain of Blood together, they were everything that I needed. Like they just believed in me a little bit, and it was revolutionary. So I have this total passion for the Netherlands sharps community. Like they helped me open a door, and I don't even think they realized that they had done it at the time.
Oh.
And then funny enough, they were the one team that said to me through the whole thing, they were like, what are you going to do after Rain of Blood? What is your plan for aftercare? And, and they,
I remember that post.
Yeah. So I was kind of huh? I don't need aftercare. I'm a machine. I can do this. And they were so right. And just knowing that they were there and that they really did care and that they really had an interest in who I was as a human being made it so special. And it made a big difference. The Dutch get my vote. It's like all my fantasies are Dutch fantasies at the moment. So if there's amazing sharps player from the Netherlands that's looking for a kitten, I'm applying. There is a house cat. There is a house cat up for adoption. Oh, sorry,
well, that very much resonated with me as well, and the whole cat vibe.
Yeah. So did you do sharps at that party?
No, absolutely fucking not. No. Oh my god.
I love that.
No, I was fascinated by it. I was like, okay, that was really fucking hard. I love these people. I love their approach. I am going to take that approach over into other areas of kink, in general, sometimes when you're in an environment that makes you be more performative, then it can happen that sorry, 1 second. I am
no problem.
Let me continue that afterwards because I have to close something, otherwise it keeps messaging me. All right. Should we start that again? Can you ask the question?
Yes. What was my exact question? Help me.
Oh, yes. So, if I did no,
but I don't want to cut out that beautiful answer you gave me because it was perfect. It made me smile.
True.
Absolutely fucking not. It was so perfect. It was brilliant. Okay, so
we're gonna listen to it later and see what we keep.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So you didn't do sharps at the party?
No.
You decided no to even hear your answer so quick. It's brilliant. I take it that was a no then.
No, yeah. But it really stuck with me. It was one of those things that it was that chewing gum on your boots that just keeps being there, and every step you take, it's annoying you a little bit by sticking to the ground. And and then you're walking and you can't ignore it. And in when was that? In May, I think. So that was a Halloween party, and in May I was finally done with that thought bugging me, and I decided to give sharps a try and play with myself so I can regulate how the needle like comes towards me, is even in my environment, and those kind of things. But I definitely wanted to try it because it looked fabulous, and I also was really just curious about how it would feel. Yeah.
I love that, and I think self-piercing for me is really something that gives me the control over the sensation, and I quite like that. And for me, it's been it's opened up a whole new realm of play and experience. So I'm always keen to hear how that felt for you and what it was like to experience for you. I didn't have as much fear going into it, but yeah, so that must have been coupled with the fear that you still had of the sharp objects, which must have been a bit more intense.
Yeah, very much. I to this day, I mean, I watched a couple of other people stab themselves, right, over the time, and like usually, not always, but usually people are quite casual about it, and they are just like, yeah, sure, do it. Yeah, sure, do another one. And they completely ignore the fear element about it because it's not really there for them. And I think without the fear element, I wouldn't be so much into sharps the way I am. Like maybe I would go more for designs because that's also cool. But what really triggers my kink about it is to play around with that fear and to be mean to myself.
That's so cool. I don't have the intense fear, but I have really battled to go to drop gauges and to go down to single digits.
Oh yeah.
Like there's a mental fear about it. And what I find interesting is, for me, it's a timing thing. Like, and I'll think about it, and I'll think about it, and I'll think about it. And then the other day I just picked up a single gauge and I put it in, and I was like, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. But the build up to get there has been 2 years. It's been a long time. It's been like, even with 18 gauges for me, it was I stabbed a lot of other people. I really loved sharps. I did a little bit of self-piercing, like 4 needles in my leg. And I was relatively reserved about it. And then one day I just sat down and decided that I could do it, and I did it. And I put 18 gauges in, and it was the best experience ever. And the feeling afterwards for me is huge. It's that huge feeling of empowerment that I tackled something and I completed it and I did it. And yeah, it's just an awesome feeling. And the endorphins from the actual needles are also amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just love that.
With this, what you said, like, so every time that I have a conversation and they say something that I find really interesting and I want to respond to, I cross a finger. And just from like the last thing that you said, I have like all my fingers crossed. So I have like 5 things that I want to respond to because like, oh, all of what you said, like so interesting, so intriguing. Maybe I can start with one of the crossed fingers about single digit gauges. I got I got it in my head that I wanted to pierce my own ear, which I did by now. And when I ordered the piercing needles, not the hypodermic, but the piercing needles, I also thought, fuck it, I will just go for it and also get one that is 4 millimeters. So that's 60, but like piercing needles. So yeah, the inner diameter is 4 millimeters. And I will get 2 of them, one for my partner and one for me. And then we can do that. And it will be very connecting because it will be very, very scary. And I showed that to my other partner. And his immediate reaction was, so when you stab that, because it's a tube, do you also get some flesh with it? And can you eat it afterwards? And I just thought like, oh, I love the man. That's fantastic.
He's fantastic. Keep him. He's brilliant.
Yes. So that like, I don't know, just the connection between what you said earlier as well about like, yeah, like if I could lick the needles, I would, like, yeah. What was the other thing that you said? See, I cross these fingers, but they don't always work to remind me of the for the reaction. That is also something that I find so interesting because needles have this like really sharp pain, right? Like it's very immediate, very quick, and then it's not there anymore. And then it's like a little bit of an afterglow, but it's not really hurting anymore. And I had before some experience with like plucking hair that also gave me this like immediate like adrenaline rush, very like in very short time, and it also got me really spacey. And with needles, my personal reaction is I do it and I'm very focused and I have a lot of fear and a lot of adrenaline, and afterwards I just kind of like almost fall asleep because it's so like I get so calm and zen.
I love
so
that.
That's also what I really like. Although then after like 15 minutes or so, I suddenly get munchies like crazy. And I have to eat.
I love that. I find there are very few things that can make me present. On piercing or being pierced or self-piercing or anything to do with sharps. It's the one thing that turns the noise in my head down. So there's 90% of the time my brain is working on 10 different levels and I'm thinking about 100 different things and there's lots of white noise going on. As soon as that first needle goes in, there's no more white noise. It's just I'm absolutely present in the moment. So I think being able to spend that time with myself is super cool because I'm actually focused on me. And then for me, that's translated a bit more into how do I care for this? How am I going to be, because my next goal is obviously to do more needles. But then how do I care for that canvas? How do I make sure that canvas is looked after? So it's really like, it's just translated into just being healthier. I know that sounds so super weird because I'm sticking sharp things in myself to be healthier, but my focus is on me. So I'm not just spending the 20 minutes being present with myself while I'm stabbing myself. I'm being good about my running. I'm being good about my eating. I'm being good about the skincare. I'm being good about putting lotion on, looking after, hydrating the canvas. Like all of these things are time that I'm spending with myself that I never did before. I always had a million other things, and so it's just been a really interesting journey because it's just brought me present with myself. But I love to hear about how you feel calm with needles because it's something that used to make you super anxious and not calm. So it's really interesting that it's gone full circle and that you're able to find peace there. I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah, I really love hearing that you are like practicing lots of self-care because of kink, because like I think there's a lot of stigma from the vanilla world that like, people who do kink are some crazy people that don't give a dang about others, or like I don't know, whatever people think sadism and masochism actually means, like at least the stigma that I've experienced from vanilla friends that I've opened up to. So yeah, I think that's wonderful that you say that, because that's also how I experience it. I think the communication that I learned because I am in kink and because I interact with my community and I learn from everyone is amazing, and it helped me with everything in life, like not just with kink, but it helped me take care of myself more, take care of other people more, be more mindful of the impact I have on others and that others have on me. So I really liked hearing that. Yeah, that makes you more like take more practice more self-care. That's cool.
It's the whole thing, like I think the whole understanding consent, because I think in the beginning I thought I had it waxed and I didn't. I was very good at asking for permission and doing it in a way where no one could say no to me. And that's kind of been a bit of my journey in life, and the work that I do in the vanilla community. I can't go to my boss with a no. I have to go to him with 100 yeses. So I'm compelled to get the yes from people. So learning to ask for consent was a huge journey for me. And then I realized the one person I wasn't asking for consent from was myself. And I was violating my own consent on a regular basis. And I was doing it in my relationships with guys, in my relationship with friends, and just understanding consent for me, the 4 pillars that make up consent in a framework that helped me understand what the term meant, changed my life. Like it's helped me negotiate with my clients. It's made me understand capacity. And because of understanding capacity, I'm a better kinkster, I'm a better athlete, I'm a better human being, because I just don't overload myself anymore. Like I have boundaries, and I never, like I thought I had these boundaries and that I didn't have anything before kink. So I look at a lot of vanilla relationships, and I just think that if we had a little bit more communication and a little bit more negotiation and a little bit more understanding of actual consent going in there, that would change a lot of lives. And I think you can see the ripples of how the consent has changed my life and changed the lives of those people that are involved with me. And it's sort of spread out into the community like that. So huge changes. Even just getting out of my car at work in the morning, I'm like, my capacity is a 6 out of 10 today. It is a no day. I'm not saying yes to anything. Until I have, up that number to a 7 or an 8, I'm not going to take on any extra. And that's really it's been huge. And that's also because I've also got to be honest and say, well, can I really stick 100 needles in myself today? Do I really have capacity? No, it's a 6. It's a self-care day, not doing 100 needles, so there's a level of self-awareness and honesty that I didn't have with myself before. So I hugely appreciate that about kink, and I see it reflected back in me, in other people as well, which is, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could get into a whole feminist rant about like why we are probably or why we have never learned in this society to speak up about our boundaries, but I think we're both aware of that. And about this, what do I have the capacity for, and like listening to your body. I record a lot of my needle scenes that I have with myself, and because the partner that I kind of discovered needles with, he lives in Belgium, so it's, it is around the corner, but also not really. And I wanted to share that with him, how, my first experience went in kink or in needles, and then how like other other times where I had firsts, or like a day where I was showing him a pattern I want to do on him at some point. I recorded that, and there was one recording that after the half of the pattern, like you could see it in my face that I wasn't into it. Something was off. I wasn't feeling it. And then at some point I was like, nah, it's not it. I'm gonna stop here. It's not fun anymore. And that's, I think that's really powerful to see also yourself, like reach that point where like you were also already at that point in the beginning of the scene, like, you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And I think to give yourself the grace and to allow yourself the space to say, okay, no, it's not today. It's not the Olympics. I don't need to win this. And I can revisit this at another stage. And just to give yourself that kindness, because we're not trained to do that on any level. I mean, we trained to win. Well, I was my whole life. Like, you just don't fail. And it's not failing. It's winning on a whole different level because you're actually listening to yourself. So I resonate a lot with that, because that self-awareness is super hard, and giving yourself the grace in the situation is super hard. So I absolutely love that reminder that you've just given us here, that it doesn't have to be today. And I also loved what you said about recording your sessions. And I think there's a lot in that, because I think, number one, it helps with technique hugely, that you can see how you can make your technique better, and, you know, that you can be more accurate or whatever you need to do. So I think just from the accuracy point of view, that it can really help. But it also gives you time to reflect on what really happened. So the reality of the situation, because sometimes in my head, what really happened and what happens on the video are two different things. So being able to align those two things and not overthink it and see the reality of the situation is super important. The filming, because we've been doing it so much for demonstrations and stuff like that, has really been an eye-opening experience for me, in having to take a hard look at what I'm doing and how it's affecting me and what I'm seeing reflected back in my body. So I love that. And I think for somebody starting off in needles, it's super good. You've ended up by default because your partner, which I'm sorry that they're not closer, because it's always nice to have them close, but in retrospect, it's done you, it's been a good exercise. It's almost like journaling the session, except it's a very realistic view of what you're doing. So I really love that. And I advise that to anybody starting off. We don't have big mentorship here, so there's not a big, I can't go like with fire at the moment. I can't go down the road and ask somebody to teach me. So I find that when I do my setups and when I do my starting things, I always put all of that on videos so that I can go back and I can check at how workable the situation is, how easy it was, where I went wrong, what I can improve on, and just how I was dealing with it, because I see a lot, fire is quite creating quite a bit of anxiety in my life at the moment. It's something I'm not super comfortable with. So it's interesting to see how much anxiety is actually really there when I watch the video of me doing these small, very small sessions. Just super interesting. I love that.
Yeah, that resonates with me, because as of lately, we're also I am okay. So one of my partners knows how to fire breathe, so I really wanted him to teach me, and he finally did. And now I passed it on to my other partner that's living here, and we also recorded that, and I loved rewatching it, and also in slow-mo, because then you can really see how that fireball is like getting bigger, because it happens so quickly that you don't even notice where it goes. So like when you do it in slow-mo, you can really see it grow, and then you realize like, ooh, that was actually much bigger than it looked in real life. That my brain had the capacity processing in the moment. And also we've watched how do you say it? Rewatched it? Yeah, watched back on it and analyzed it a little bit on how to improve the technique if we are taking steps back to prevent the fire from getting towards our mouth or stuff like that. So yeah, with fire especially, recording yourself helps so much because it's such an uncontrollable thing that your brain cannot process quick enough, not as quick as it is happening.
You just said something that I found super empowering. It's okay that I'm feeling that anxiety because it's true, because my brain isn't processing it and it's not expected to process it that quickly. Yeah. So that's what you just said, you without realizing it, has settled me quite a bit because it's an overwhelming force. It really is. It's something that's much bigger than me, even in small doses. I found that's super interesting. The recording things really helped me. It's definitely made me better, and it's made me a lot more confident because I'm understanding where I wasn't exact, and then I can fix that. So at least that gives me a method behind it. So yeah, I have to ask you about the fire breathing though, because that's one of those things that I look at and I think, oh my God, that is incredible. But how scary is that to do?
I was thinking beforehand that I would be really scared of getting burned and, burning your face and your lips, that would be the major scary thing about it. But actually, it is the lamp oil that you have in your mouth. That is the scary. Still is. I have huge respect from it because you cannot swallow it at all. That means that means death and no discussion. Maybe a slow and painful death, but that can't happen. You can also not. After you've spewed the fire, you can also not inhale through your mouth because that means it gets in your lungs, which is also bad because then your lungs corrode and shrivel. So that is actually the scary bit for me, is that liquid and handling that liquid and making sure you have your throat properly locked so it doesn't go down and that you don't inhale or that you don't accidentally cough. And then, you, by instinct, you inhale quickly because of the coughs, those kind of things. That gave me huge anxiety. And we practice it a lot with water and then with whiskey or rum to really feel where the liquid is going, because water is quite neutral. So I needed something that's a little more stingy to feel how I can really lock my throat off properly and how I can hold it in my mouth without anxiety.
Wow, I'm in awe. I have so much respect. That is I have been speaking to a whole bunch of guys, and I spoke to Fire Top tonight, who was he's been playing with fire for so long. It's his bucket list thing to do, but he still isn't brave enough to give it a try. So I think tonight what's been really evident in everything that you've approached is that you have this really clear process. So I'd like to commend you for that, and I thank you for sharing that because it's come across in both of the kinks that you've discussed. And I've got a lot of time for that, and it's beautiful to hear that you're considering yourself in the whole situation and giving yourself clear steps to look after yourself, so you're mitigating the risk for yourself and you have a lot of self-awareness. It's really beautiful, Jo.
It's called autism.
so relate to you. I'm so with you on that. Oh dear. But it's beautiful though, and it's a self-awareness that it's a superpower. I don't think it's a bad thing.
Oh, absolutely not. No. It's but it is sometimes in my way where because I'm also a wonderful overthinker, and
Right.
before I get into something, it needs to be all safe. All options need to have been explored, and then we can get into it. And my negotiations are always wonderfully, down to the core.
Right. I'm sure it's that admin is secretly my kink. And I just haven't owned it yet because I seem to do a lot more admin than I do kink. And I seem to have these pages and pages of negotiations. And when I start to have a new player that comes in to do sharps with me, I think I scare them like away in the first like half an hour, because 3 weeks before the play, I'm sending them lists of negotiation questions and lists of things that I need to know for the situation. And I'm sure they're like, oh my gosh. And I it does get easier after you played with me for 6 months and I have 6 months worth of your lists. But yeah, I don't know. The clarity is what I love about kink, and what has been so freeing in my kink relationships compared to my normal relationships, because it's allowed me to have a platform to ask all those questions for all that information that I need. And that's given me a lot of confidence and a lot of trust in the situation.
That really, I really relate to that, honestly, like on all the things that you just said, because asking for clarification usually ends with me being very misunderstood for being defiant or like prodding too much or being aggressive, and in kink it like people understand that type of communication because that is the base of it, and I really enjoy that. And I think maybe in the end that's also why so many neurodivergent people are kinky or like are attracted to that, like the community, because that is the type of communication that they are preferring. So it's wonderful that there is a space that actually does that.
Yeah, and I find in a lot of vanilla relationships that level of communication often ends in a fight because it's misunderstood. And what's terrible about from my side is as soon as I feel that there is a lack of clarity, I become anxious, and then my questions get stronger because it's a need that I need to fulfill. Otherwise, the job doesn't feel successful to me, or I don't feel that I have clarity in the task. And that anxiety can come across as me being aggressive or as me being domineering, or exactly your experience. So yeah. I think that just having, but it's also King's given me a platform to test all of those different ways of negotiating and find stuff that works for me, which has been great because it's then flowed over into my vanilla work and I'm able to negotiate better. Like I have a consent card. I don't call it a consent card, but I have a consent card for my vanilla work as well that I'll get prospective clients to answer before we start the journey. And then I have an idea of if we align or not, because if they're not prepared to go through the first 10 questions, we're never going to be a good fit. And it doesn't make them bad people, but it just means that this relationship isn't going to end well. So I also make better choices just simply based on stuff that Kinks empowered me with. And I think it's great.
That's awesome.
Oh, so I've loved chatting to you. I am really grateful that you sent me a message. And I'm really grateful that you have found joy in your fear play with sharps, because I'm sure there's still a healthy dose of fear that goes into it. But it's been beautiful. It's been so beautiful to. I know it's great. I think that's great. Like I do think the way that you approach all of the kinks that you try has been really a positive a story to share, and I've taken a lot away from it. So yeah, fire breathing is on my bucket list, but not this week. It's just trying to stop burning the hair on my arms, because the smell of burning hair and me do not mix well together. No, it's not a great experience. I need to get past that. But I've loved chatting to you, and I'm really grateful that you reached out. And yeah, I hope that your sharps journey is terribly scary in a good way, and beautiful, and brings you everything that you want from it.
Thank you. That is horribly kind of you.
Well, I've got to be a sadist on some level. Like the fear. If there wasn't a fair amount of fear in what we do, would we still do it?
No. Yeah. True. I mean, yeah. Absolutely. So I hope you can think back to me whenever you need that little, smile on your face when you're stuck at work. Just think of me like being sadistic to myself, and then you're like, Joe's probably in fear now.
So I don't think I'm ever going to forget the way you answered. So did you do needles that night? I don't think I'm ever going to. Fucking no way. I love that. I wish you the best for the rest of your evening, and thank you for chatting to us on Rain of Blood.
Thank you so much for having me, and to stay warm, please.
I will do. And to all my beautiful sharps players, we miss you guys, and we want to hear from you guys. Please drop a note in my inbox if you want to chat to me on the podcast, or if you just want to chat about sharp things. We have our Halloween festival coming up in October, and we hope to bring you some spooky, gory, bloody sharps kink. And from my dungeon all the way in Cape Town, South Africa, lots of love and kitten kisses.